Friend of mine's like, yo, wasn't that the guy you told me who was nice? What happened to him? And I'm just like,
I don't know. Don't have a straight answer.
And him going to, and I'm gonna tell you what, Bobby Roode is one of those examples in the roster of like, if you just push through the mud, you can see how beautiful the diamond really is.
Backstage Brawl, y'all already know what it is. I am your host, as always, the Golden Child. Alongside our usual suspects, we got Kid Ty, we got the DiamondCutter, and of course, we see the People's Champ. People's Champ, what you doing there?
My name's not the People's Champ today.
Oh,
I want you to call me by my proper name today. What's my name?
He ain't doing this.
No, what's my name? I'm the champ. I'm the champ. I need you to tell me what's my name. What's my proper name?
Tell me my name. I want to hear him say it.
I want to hear him say it.
You want to hear me say it?
I want to hear you say it.
Me,
You're the tribal chief, Oos. You're the tribal chief.
Listen.
I need him to say it.
Listen, anything to keep it rolling. But anyway, we are discussing Clash of Champions review, Monday Night Raw review. We're going to kick it off with Clash of Champions. A very polarizing pay-per-view by many accounts for one reason and one reason only. Raw took the L on that night. Took the L. Took the proverbial L. But
Big fat L.
for all intents and purposes, the night was saved, essentially, and dominated by the start of the show, triple threat ladder match for the IC Championship title.
Oof.
And of course, Tribal Chief was mentioned, Roman Reigns versus Jey Uso, main eventing as we predicted this past week. And guess what, fellas? It delivered. What are your guys' thoughts on Clash of Champions?
I told y'all last week what was going to happen when Roman Reigns and Jey Uso clashed. Now, I'm glad that he didn't fuck. Well, I mean, he died. I mean, let's just call it what it is. But I told you that it was going to be something that people were going to talk about. And we're on Tuesday. You know it's very special when people cannot wait till SmackDown to see the fallout. Like, people wanted to just skip Raw yesterday and just go straight to Friday. You know, I've seen tweets yesterday online talking about the fact that they haven't seen storytelling in a match like this probably since Daniel Bryan. Vince Russo kind of exaggerated saying longer than that, but Daniel Bryan was a close thing in terms of storytelling within a match that we've seen in a very, very long time. Roman and Jey, like they took us back about 15, 20 years, back to that feeling that made you watch professional wrestling. Like, don't get me wrong, I love the fast pace, I love the technical ability, I love the here and the back and forth, but that's not what drew us in. What drew us in, like our podfather, the chosen one would say, is storyline and moments. Moments and storylines would drive you, and what basically it give you the greatest interest into watching or investing yourself in time into a product. Roman Reigns and Jey Uso did just that. And sure, Raw did take an L, but Drew and Randy Orton as well exhibited the best form of storytelling. The last two matches of that night, well, if you count the first match of the night as well, was storytelling at its finest. Storytelling one-on-one. It was alive and well. And for the first time in a long time in the pay-per-view, I was glad to see it. In the end, I was glad to even see it because now there's no question. There's no definitive doubt that Roman Reigns is not only still the Universal Champion, but undoubtedly the Tribal Chief.
A couple points on that, because, for all intents and purposes, bringing up the whole Vince Russo thing in regards to, like, the storyline, I think that, in defense of his claim, although, like, there's no need to get in defense of an opinion of that nature, this is a storyline that they have built, that they have thought out. It's not anything that they've came up with by mistake. Daniel Bryan, you know, the history of Daniel Bryan, you know, you've seen it as just like, you know, oh, like this wasn't planned. Roman's situation, it was catered to him, and everyone originally was like waiting on like the fall off because it was ready. It was there. It's Roman Reigns, and you know, whenever he's been coveted, like it's kind of been that thing where like if the magnifying glass is on him, then they're going to feed him lines, they're going to feed him storylines, and it's going to be very stale. This is a particular situation where they've legitimately planned something out and it's pulled through and still ongoing. But also, of course, shouts out to the entire storyline. Jey Uso, Jimmy Uso, literally it was Rocky 4. They literally like the meme was Rocky 4. Do shout out Drew versus Randy Orton, of which was, you know, if you want to think that was Rocky 4, then the match prior was like John Tucker Must Die, where literally every person that he wronged came at the end and just wrecked his shit. Just wrecked him. Just straight up wrecked him. So definitely, you know, if Raw had anything to salvage, it was definitely that. DiamondCutter, Kid Ty, your thoughts on the pay-per-view as a whole?
I enjoyed this pay-per-view. I think this was probably one of the better pay-per-views. Clash of Champions, but you know what? Clash of Champions has a history of sometimes being one of those pay-per-views that are turning point in a storyline. I mean, we've seen it before. We've had marquee matchups at Clash of Champions. CM Punk and John Cena being one of them. CM Punk and Triple H being another one. So there's been quite a few matches at Clash of Champions. But I enjoyed this one in particular only because of, like everybody else says, the storyline, the storytelling. I still think that, yeah, Roman and Jey Uso, they stole the show. But the match that a lot of people are talking about as well is that ladder match. That ladder match was just fire from beginning to end, and it opened the show, and it was hard. I forgot who followed up behind them. I want to say it was it wasn't the United States.
I don't know.
Was it Zelina Vega and Asuka? I'm not too sure who was right behind.
Yeah,
but yeah, I'm not too sure who was right behind.
It was Zelina Vega versus Asuka. Right after.
Okay, so if it was them, that's a hard act to follow. I mean, they were just hot from the beginning. And Sami Zayn, shouts out to Sami Zayn, he was just everything a heel should have been in that sense. I mean, he handcuffed Jeff Hardy from his earlobe to the ladder. So he had to carry around the ladder. And poor Jeff, because this is not the first time that he's been attacked in that earlobe. I mean, we all know what happened with Randy Orton. And then after that, he was smart on top of that to handcuff AJ Styles to the ladder to where he couldn't move. So it was no doubt in anyone's mind that Sami Zayn was going to win this match. And Jeff, I mean, I'd be surprised if he's alive because he was
isn't this what Kid Ty wanted?
You know, when we sent
where's Shane McMahon when you need him?
He approves it. But when we sent this in the group, he said that he would rather Shane than Jeff killing himself. But that's not here nor there. But overall, pay-per-view was really, really good. I felt like another match a lot of people should be talking about is Zelina Vega and Asuka. I thought they put on a really good match as well. They just needed more time. And then they got that time last night. They got that time last night. And both matches that they had were great. But as far as Roman goes, I mean, what can we say? If you had any doubts that Roman was going to be this heel, those doubts are now erased. If you doubted that he is a heel still, you're not watching the product. I even seen a couple of people online say that, they didn't like the match. Then you don't like storytelling. You're just complaining at this point. Because it told a story of Roman basically saying that I am the man. I am the head of this table, which he is saying now, which is going to be his next shirt. I'm predicting it. But he is the head of the table. He is the tribal chief. And he needs that respect from his family. He's demanding it. Not even needing it. He's demanding it. He's demanding it from Jey Uso. He's demanding it from Jimmy. who came out during the match, who I thought was going to turn on his brother. That was just my prediction. I thought they were just going to turn him. But now that, you know, we're going into Hell in a Cell, this is definitely one of those storylines that deserve a Hell in a Cell match. I feel like Jimmy might do a turn there.
I mean, hey,
But-
look, like it's gonna be tough if they do anything like physical with him, only because he's coming back from the ACL tear. He's still, you know, hampered by that injury. So if
Yeah, I
nothing
was
else-
wondering when he came out during the match, was he selling the fact that he's still injured, or is he legit just, you know, walking like that because he's still hurt?
He's also 5 months removed from surgery.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of scar tissue and moving around. So he's still
Yeah.
feeling the lingering effects. He's not all the way there yet.
Well, regardless of the fact, this was everything it should have been and more. And I know a lot of people are complaining about Roman's new look. A lot of people are like, well, you know, what's the big deal? He's just shirtless. Okay, that's fine. But apparently we're supposed to be getting new music pretty soon. I know they have a whole thing going with CFO right now in WWE. So we will be getting new music eventually. So, you know, trolls online and Roman haters can, you know, stop complaining.
I mean,
overall pay-per-view was great.
Yeah, there's certain subtleties, and he did mention it. You know, I heard you mention Asuka and Zelina Vega. Do want to hold off on them till we get to Raw with Roman. I will say there's certain subtleties of which he explained in an interview, where little by little he'll be like removing certain things from his old gimmick to now his current gimmick as the tribal chief. So, you know, we could see even him having the wreath at the end of the pay-per-view. That may carry over and allow him to have even more of an attire change. So who knows? I don't think that
I would like, the one thing I would like to see happen over starting this week on Friday. The one thing I would like for commentary to start doing, I know Corey Graves has been doing it, but Michael Cole needs to start acknowledging Roman Reigns as the tribal chief, no longer as the big dog. I feel like when he was the big dog, that was his face gimmick. Start acknowledging him as the tribal chief, or, you know, the head of the table, something to legitimize this heel turn that everybody recognizes it. Because if you're going to still continue to call him the big dog after he's made all these character changes, it shows on commentary, and it shows when they do the play-by-play and how they view Roman. If you're going to view him as a heel, you have to go all in and view him as the tribal chief or head of the table or whatever he's calling himself. But I believe it is going to be the tribal chief. That's going to be the main thing. That's his big dog as a heel.
Yeah, the biggest presentation with whatchamacallit, with characters back in the Attitude Era way back when, into the Attitude Era, into the Ruthless Aggression, is the fact that, you know, you'd had commentators who would kind of add those little things in our minds to say, hey, this is this person, this is Mr. Perfect, you know, he's perfect, you know, you have Bret Hart, the master technician, the workhorse, you have Shawn Michaels, etc., etc., Stone Cold Steve Austin, the Rattlesnake. So of course those taglines, those names will be very it'll be imperative that they, you know, push that in. I do, before last word from you, Randy, I do want to get a word from Kid Ty. Kid Ty, your thoughts, pay-per-view as a whole.
One of the better pay-per-views of the year for sure. I got witness to a lot of things, a lot of innovative things that I didn't think I'd see in this pay-per-view. I don't want to like go into like my analysis of every match, because I feel like the guys kind of did that for most of the big moments on the card. Some of the things that I noticed, even in creative dysfunction, SmackDown won the night in terms of their tag match was more exciting than the Raw tag match. The only thing that Raw really had over SmackDown was the women's match, which I wanted to bring up, the fact that like Asuka filling in for Nikki Cross because of whatever happened, whether it be the COVID situation with the parties or whatever caused Nikki Cross not to be there. Seeing Asuka fight Bayley, while shocking, kind of felt stupid in the end when you realize, like, what was the point, you know? What you call it? I saw the cleanest transitions into an Asuka lock I've seen in some time. Asuka is one of the cleanest competitors in WWE history. the way she hits flying arm bars, flying triangles, and half the submission transitions that she does is reminiscent of a lot of the technicians we grew up on as a kid. And Zelina definitely brought it. For people who've never seen her wrestle, if the last time you saw her wrestle was like as Rosita in TNA, she's far improved from then. Not to say she was bad then, but she's definitely shown like her experience and her growth since then. And she had a very solid outing with Asuka at the pay-per-view. And that transition from like Asuka lock to the Casadora style front roll, like victory roll type transition back into a prawn hole into the Asuka lock was one of the most surprising things I've seen this entire year in the ring. Like that was awesome. Seeing Jeff Hardy put his body on the line in more innovative ways than we've seen in a while. I know a lot of people, we kind of come accustomed to ladder matches being a certain way. I've heard it from a lot of people, including Solid Monster recently as I was listening to wrestling podcasts. But when I was watching it, we kind of have a certain expectation for ladder spots and what we can see with ladders. And this match blew a lot of those expectations out of the water. Like between Sami Zayn showing how much he wanted this victory, as well as how low he would go to get it. Some of the crafty things that he did, forcing AJ to have to climb up the ladder with him on his back. The as you mentioned before, handcuffing him to the damn ladder, using the earlobe, which I think is cool that they called back to that. It's not one of those like we just forget it because it happened one time. Like the fact that it's actually now a weakness of Jeff, his ears, is kind of interesting. And then, Jeff swimming on a ladder, that was a thing when they were pushing the ladder back and he was climbing forward to avoid getting thrown out of the ring. I thought that was an awesome idea. Unfortunately, Jeff collapsed with the ladder, and God, as many times as Jeff and Sami Zayn alone just falling in the ladders falling onto them. The match was a great way to set the tone and wake up everybody's eyes. Like everybody was already kind of either excited or they were like, all right, let's go, let's do this. And it woke everybody up and set a tone for the night of like drama is the theme of this night, and between AJ twisting into styling DDTs off announce tables. Yes, you heard that right. And everything in between. It was a fun night overall. There's some low points and those carry over from bad booking from Raw and SmackDown. But those four matches, the Raw Women's Title match, Intercontinental Title match, WWE, which was awesome. It was great seeing all the callbacks to the match. I didn't know how they're going to do the ambulance match, so seeing all the legends come back and get their revenge on Orton was nice. And I also thought it was cool just seeing Ric Flair in the ambulance ready to cart Randy Orton off. I thought that was a great touch. So that was awesome. Roman's whole performance with Jay. I wish there was a crowd. Oh, it would have been even hotter with the crowd.
I hate this COVID era.
I do, like, they did the best with the situation that they could, but man, just imagining it with the crowd, how much they would have been behind Jay with all these promos, them chanting Usos in the crowd or just going, Oos, oh, like, so, they did a good job. Roman also with his light skinned face, like his like squint face, like all throughout the match was funny. It's a running gag with us.
And Charles Robinson, poor Charles Robinson.
Yo.
Because he got threatened throughout the whole match. It was like, you shut your mouth.
It was
right?
You know what it was a callback to? You know what it was a callback to? It was a callback to like when Triple H used to just berate like just berate. Hey, you're gonna go over there, you're gonna pin this for me. And he like pin hook a person's leg 3 times and it'll be a 2 count every time. Like that was
I also wanted to make a mention of one thing before we move on. In terms of Roman's attire, this is kind of just a slight deviation from that. I'm very interested to see where this tribal chief thing goes in terms of like the symbolism, in terms of attire-wise, because WWE is no secret. WWE is used to doing a lot of stereotypical stuff with their with characters that are different ethnicities, different backgrounds, and especially in the Samoan dynasty itself, the Anoa'i family. We've seen a lot of different, like stereotypical outfits and whatnot. And I thought that it was nice that Roman was slowly changing his attire. I kind of figured that was what's going to happen because he said he's not wearing tights. Who knows? He's a heel. He could have lied. But the point being is like him doing it subtly is nice because with most Samoan characters, you're used to it being very exaggerated, like a Umaga or like even in the case of a Rikishi who was wearing like a garb that I don't even think that's a Samoan garb, but like you see with the gimmicks that some people get, like Yokozuna, the Wild Samoans, even what do you call it? When before what was that team? The Head Shrinkers, with Rikishi's original team. Like a lot of times they're either given really plain attires and they're supposed to be built as barbarians, or they're given these really stereotypical attires. Even the Usos had to go through it before they started dressing up like 90s, pop groups. So it happens. But with Roman, I like the fact that it's a lot more subtle off the bat. I think the wreath is a great touch. It kind of reminds me of Kurt Angle's medal in a way, just the fact that they have to put it around his neck because he achieved something. So I hope it continues to be more of a subtle change and he can do a more balanced, a more not respectable, let me take that back, a more balanced and less exaggerated, less stereotypical like look for a Samoan character. Because most of the top Samoan characters either don't act that Samoan at all or act overly Samoan by WWE standards. So I like that the fact that it's more subtle going into it.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be something worth seeing on Friday night. But of course, Monday Night Raw did have a part to do with Clash of Champions. Monday Night Raw did take place last night, following up the Clash of Champions pay-per-view, and we mentioned Ric Flair, Christian, Big Show, all together. They're all basically together helping out Drew McIntyre doing the thing, and you have Randy Orton kind of doing his old Braun Strowman impression of "I'm not finished with you." That whole storyline going on. Mandy Rose finally appears on Monday Night Raw. She's in a tag match alongside with Dana Brooke versus Natalia and Lana, the Battle of the Blondes, essentially.
Sounds like Alexa's dream.
Exactly, right. So you have all those different things going on. You have the continuation of the Ray Seth Rollins feud with Aaliyah and Buddy Murphy. You have basically the Zelina Vega rematch. You have all those things. You have no Raw Underground and Retribution with the rumor.
I'm actually happy about that.
Yeah, and Retribution with the whole COVID scare, along with Nia Jax, who was missing in action on the Clash of Champions. Shayna Baszler missing in actions at Clash of Champions. They were all not to be seen on this Monday Night Raw. What do we think of last night, guys?
Asuka. I mean, all right. I'm not gonna crap on it.
Nah, it wasn't as bad as last Monday.
Yeah, it wasn't bad. It wasn't bad as the Go Home show. I do think they were kind of handicapped with the COVID situation. I'm kind of glad that Retribution didn't show up.
Actually, I kind of want to take back something I said from last week.
Go ahead.
The AEW thing, saying that it happens. After some consideration and hearing about like the party that happened that possibly had NXT and AEW stars, the fact that both companies are experiencing things, it makes me realize, not even just like I knew it at the time, but I kind of want to say like there's always that outlier that someone still could get infected even with all the protocols in place, like depending on who you bring in and out of that like WWE type bubble, right? But nobody likes this COVID situation at all. And there are a lot of people who are very lax about it. They won't wear their mask when they're around certain people, even though those people can easily have the virus as well. We've all been victims of it. But I think that in this climate, with the fact that they're in a company like this, where they're expected to be on TV every single week, I hope that WWE starts finding people. I really do, because I don't like the lack of responsibility on the people when they have that much at stake. You know what I mean? I'm not saying that excuses anybody from acting that lax, but the fact that both companies have people that are getting sick, and WWE already has so much to lose considering they were bad, really bad at this early on, right? They have to really start policing some of the talents in terms of making sure that they don't do something like this. I know everybody's entitled to do what they want because of their freedoms, but I mean, just because you can doesn't mean you should. You know what I mean? If you're going to hang out with people in mass groups or in mass in general, you have to take those precautions, because especially if you're in these big angles, or if you're in angles that require you to be on TV consistently, you missing 2 weeks of action can throw off a whole storyline. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's a domino effect, because that's the reason why we had when COVID was first going on, and you had a bunch of people, sitting out of WrestleMania. We were talking about the Sami Zayn thing. Obviously, we've discussed Roman Reigns at length. You kind of fall victim to, or fall susceptible to having that situation kind of happen again.
Yeah, and it's not to say that like everyone's doing it. I know it's probably just a small number of people, but even so, even if it looks 80% okay, it doesn't necessarily mean you should stop putting 100% effort into staying safe.
Yeah,
that's how I feel about it.
Absolutely. But thoughts on Raw. Thoughts on Raw. Of course, you didn't have the Retribution, you didn't have Raw Underground, and all of these continuations of the feuds, some high, some low. What do you guys think?
Well, we saw the return of Robert Roode, and it I gotta say, this is something that happens.
Oh my God.
Again, this is where the crowd was needed, because it wasn't so glorious. Pun intended. It wasn't so glorious. It was like the crowd needed to be there. I mean, you saw Ziggler come out. Drew was sitting there complaining, saying that basically, I want somebody who I haven't faced yet. And Drew and Robert Roode put on a match that reminds you that, hey, Robert Roode can still hang in the main event. This is somebody that you could possibly have in the main event. I know Vince is worried about somebody because of their age,
Fuck no,
but
I'm sorry, no.
No, wait.
Fuck that.
Fuck
that.
Let me take this.
I'm sorry, Eric. Look, I'm mad.
Goldberg.
Mad. I'm mad. You don't want to know what it is?
Well, Goldberg's a company guy. That's the only
No, he's not a
guy.
Okay. All right, no, both of y'all fuck off. Let me tell you exactly why this is some bullshit. Okay? First and foremost, this age bullshit means nothing. It's whether you're a draw and can make immediate impact on either ratings or interest in the company. Let's get that out the way, because
You really
no,
okay.
because because the fact that we heard rumors recently that Undertaker had a definitive ending for the last ride in the documentary that he was recorded, and Vince was so pissed off at it that he made him make it more open-ended, having us speculate that he wants to come back, goes to show you that Vince really does not give a fuck how old you are, as long as you can give immediate interest in the company. We wouldn't have half of these legends coming back in nostalgia acts if age mattered. 2, Goldberg is not a company guy, as evident by what he did on his way out last time. And 3, Bobby Roode is one of the saddest examples of someone being called up from NXT to the main roster as quickly as they did, because it cut his reign short prematurely. Who ironically got it was Drew McIntyre, right? But Bobby Roode, since being on the main roster, maybe after the first 3 weeks of him being there, has been lost. They had this man.
I already said that when he came back that he should have went back to NXT.
That wouldn't even have fixed it, to be quite honest with you.
It's sad when, like, because I was for all full disclosure, I wasn't even, like, I was coming home, and, like, I was at this place, they were playing Monday Night Raw. Bobby Roode appears. Friend of mine's like, yo, wasn't that the guy you told me who was nice? What happened to him? And I'm just like,
I don't know. We don't have a straight answer.
And him going to, and I'm going to tell you what, Bobby Roode is one of those examples in the roster of, like, if you just push through the mud, you can see how beautiful the diamond really is. If you just push through and give him a shot. It's not even whether he's Triple H Jr. or not. I'm not going to use archetypes in this one. I'm going to say this. Bobby Roode in NXT was popular enough that when he debuted, even the non-hardcore wrestling fans in the crowd were chanting "glorious." Like his whole character by itself was believable enough for most people to where they just sat there and said, yo, I just want to be a part of the vibe, which helps get a lot of people over. And Bobby Roode is one of the best workers on the planet. He has been for a while. He might not be uber technical like everybody wants wrestlers to be, but in terms of storytelling, in terms of being a great technician straight up, and in terms of getting people to hate and love him and then hate him in the same match, You're not going to find many people like Bobby Roode. I like the fact he came back with the slick back hair. He looked like he had been waiting and chomping at the bit for a minute. I like the fact that Dolph introduced him. At least they kept that continuity and used it in a productive sense with the Drew thing that just never ends. Why are Drew and Dolph always in the same? But it worked this time, you know? Like, and the fact that Bobby came in and had the showing that he had is like it immediately gives interest back into seeing him on his own or seeing him do singles things. Hell,
Well,
maybe he could re-win the U.S. championship and actually make us care about the reign this time if they wanted to go down that route.
Well,
Or
are you
I don't know
booking
about
that?
not
that
with
one.
the Hurt Business. I'm not.
That's
Yo,
something
hey,
you're booking, sir.
hold on. I'm saying, well, we'll get to that later. But I'm saying in terms of the current, the current scene of the WWE, whether he's in the WWE title scene or the U.S. championship scene, right? Future, immediate future, distant future, doesn't matter. You made people care about him again in a sense that he hasn't been cared about since 2015, 2016, 2017. Well, actually, yep, 2017. Still too long to be that irrelevant.
So, yeah, no, absolutely. Like, whatchamacallit, Bobby Roode, for all intents and purposes, everyone was talking about him coming back like the fixture. He looked like a fusion between TNA, off the chain Bobby Roode, and Glorious all put together. I'm just saying, just let him do his work. And for all intents and purposes, that match that he had against Drew, I wasn't paying attention. I looked up. He did the Glorious DDT for a quick second. I looked at this is how I know. This is how you know as a wrestling fan, like a smart mark, that you on some shit. You see him go for the near fall, and you look at the time. You're like, there's 5 minutes left in the show. That's a kick out. That's a kick out. There's 5 minutes left. They got more time on this match. They're gonna keep going. It was like he ain't losing, right? So clearly, what's next for Drew? Obviously, we see Randy Orton going on down the line. I do want to get into this whole thing about this whole Seth Rollins, Rey Mysterio, Aaliyah, Buddy Murphy. We'll close off the Raw segment with this because I think it's a very contested thing. You have the Buddy, like there was, I believe there was a Twitter thread with Alexa Bliss, if I'm not mistaken. I believe, Eric, you posted it, about how Alexa was praising the feud and a lot of fans were concerned about, Aaliyah's age and the fact that they were kind of it was one of those, oh, I hope they're not going with this. They may be going for this. Oh God, they're going for this. I don't know how I feel about this. What are your thoughts on, this whole fiasco with the Guerrero storyline? Well,
I'm gonna take this one first. For one, this storyline needs to end. It needs to end. Seth, y'all guys know how I feel about Seth. I love Seth Rollins, and it's time for him to move on to bigger and better things. It's done. If they're gonna lead to a Murphy feud between him and Rollins, that's fine. I'll take that. But it needs to end. As far as that goes, I know there was a rumor going around that Seth might get traded to SmackDown.
No,
He might go to SmackDown in the draft.
fine, bro.
And I don't want that to happen only because I don't want the attention off of Roman right now.
Fuck
But
that.
besides
They
that,
don't need to be together.
He doesn't fit
they don't.
on
They
the
don't.
show.
They don't. And it's like you're talking about two people that are hooked together. Seth and Roman are kind of like
Doesn't
that.
even bump Roman. He doesn't even fit on the current SmackDown.
He
If I'm
doesn't.
being quite honest.
He doesn't. And
Like-
but that's a whole different conversation. This is just a rumor that's going around. But the next thing is that we know there's been a lot of controversy, especially with a lot of the speak out movement that's been happening. So for this storyline to kind of happen, it's like it's kind of touchy.
WWE don't
It's
care.
kind of touchy. And I was just about to say that. They don't care. Vince doesn't care. Vince cares about making money. Vince cares about making money and that's it. And whatever pleases him. And I don't feel like having Aaliyah in that storyline. It's just Rollins is there just instigating it. Like I'm gonna make a reference, and hopefully people out there that watch this know what I'm talking about. But it's like kind of like that one scene in Dragon Ball Super Broly when they're fighting and then out of nowhere, Frieza just kills Paragus, and he's just like, "Oh, Broly, look what so and so did to your father. He's dead." That's basically what it is. Vince McMahon is Frieza, and he's just like killing everything around him, and he's just blaming everybody else for it. And he's just like, "This is what's going on," and just trying to get a rise out of everyone. And it's just like, I don't know. You can't. At this point, it's just like you're doing anything to get a storyline. I don't know.
I think it's a good thing
like
Hell in a Cell's coming up.
Yes, I'm glad.
If we want a definitive ending to this feud, it should come at Hell in a Cell. I don't mind Seth being this type of person, like instigating. Like he's kind of been like his storyline narrative for a while is he's been pushed to the edge. People constantly saying you're not the Messiah, you're not a savior of Raw, you're more of a corruption, you're more of a problem. In a lot of ways, it's kind of ironic. You're more of an injustice, which is what his whole entire like persona was about destroying, even as far back as the Shield. I think that the Aaliyah thing had like the fact that they're going through with it the way that they have. Look, I don't exactly like the fact that they're using Aaliyah either. It's not necessary, and if it's all meant as a way to turn Murphy face or to enhance Seth and Murphy as heels, you know, so be it, right? But at this juncture, I think that the best thing they can do is wrap up all the elements they've brought to the table, whether they make sense or not. Make it make as much sense as you can, and have a definitive Rey Mysterio versus Seth Rollins at Hell in a Cell, which by itself would be interesting enough because in as much experience as Rey Mysterio has as a professional wrestler, he's never been in a Hell in a Cell match. I don't believe Rey Mysterio has competed once in a Hell in a Cell, and I don't think there's been a reason for him to compete in a Hell in a Cell. I've seen Rey in many a cage match, but not a Hell in a Cell. And Seth, the fact that Seth has more experience than Rey in Hell in a Cell is kind of ironic, right? So that can tie into it. And the fact that I think Seth is due to kind of make up for Hell in a Cell last year. It kind of feels like it was a distant dream ago, but I mean, the last Hell in a Cell match for the Universal Championship was Seth and The Fiend. You have a different mass competitor in the fray this time. I think that it would make more sense for Seth and Rey to conclude their feud there, be one of the few genuine conclusion Hell in a Cell matches we've had, as opposed to the ones that just happen to come across the calendar because we're approaching it, you know? So I agree with you, Eric. I think they should end the feud. And Hell in a Cell, ironically, this pay-per-view is the perfect place to end it.
Yeah.
Well, there should be three. Well, if we're talking
and Rey
in
wore
that
purple.
sense,
This is Halloween.
if we're talking in that sense, then there should be 3 Cell matches, which should be that match, the Universal title match between Roman and Jey Uso, and to Mean Gene's point, which I'm 50-50 on him with, is the Bayley and Sasha match, but I don't think it should be for the title. I think it should just have a regular Hell in a Cell match, unsanctioned.
So let's get into that, because there's a lot of potential Hell in a Cell matches, and we know like, you know, them to center the pay-per-view around one particular match, 3 Hell in a Cells in one. Which one, like, so you have the WWE Championship storyline, the Universal Championship storyline, the, you know, Bayley, Sasha, now you have Rey, Seth. So there's 4. Let's say if you had to work with just 2 Hell in a Cell matches, which ones would you give to? Which ones would you give a nod to?
Well, we're all gonna vote Universal title match. So,
I'm not.
I mean,
yeah, I'm thinking, yeah.
Look, I'm gonna keep it a buck, man. I don't like having to give Roman every single thing just because he's hot right now. Like by business wise, of course you'd put him in the Cell because he's hot, right? Story narrative wise, he doesn't need it. He doesn't need it. If he's gonna fight somebody at he doesn't even have to fight at the pay-per-view to get the point across that he's the man. That's how good he is right now. I think in terms of storylines, if you're gonna do 2 Cells, it would be Seth and Rey and Bayley and Sasha. That's what I'm picking, because if we're going off of what I said a couple weeks ago about the whole like Taker and Brock Lesnar narrative, where Taker walks in hurt but gives Brock a fight but dies in the end. That's what I want for Sasha and Bayley if they're going to run with it. I think that's the smartest sell match you can book at the pay-per-view, because Bayley will look like a beast. Sasha will look like somebody you want to get behind. And if they do have Sasha go off of TV for a couple months to build to a Rumble return, it'll have a good payoff too. It'll be that great bridge between that allows them to buy time for, you know, the rest of the angle. And Seth and Ray being in there, you have enough compelling elements in there as is, between the storyline, between the fact that Ray's never been in there. So what is an innovative high flyer like Rey Mysterio, who doesn't seem to age since his return in WWE, what is he going to do? We had a similar dynamic with Jeff Hardy a few years ago when he jumped into the cell. We were wondering, what's somebody like Jeff, who's such an extremist, going to do in the cell, right? What's Ray going to do in that thing? Are we going to see him crossbody off the walls? Or are we going to see him like hold on to the top of the cell like monkey bars into a Rana? You know, like, that's interesting. Seth being in there and being as devious as he is with his storytelling style right now, it would work for the cell too.
And you know what, to touch on that, like, I think there's other creative ways, because I know Randy Orton referenced to Drew, you don't know how it you don't know how it feels like to go to hell, or something along those lines, hell and back. You can find other ways to convey that message without having that match out now, right? Like, we've seen it with Bad Blood having last man standing matches. Doesn't have a Hell in a Cell match, it's a last man standing. And Bad Blood essentially is Hell in a Cell incarnate. Is just kind of the, like, it was from that tree. So you kind of have that thing where, you know, like, if I were to list it, I would probably go Bayley Sasha 1. I would probably say 2 and 3 could fluctuate between Orton, Drew, Ray, and Seth. Ray and Seth being like number 2 as of right now, especially because of the, you know, how long they've been feuding. And then at 4, you get Roman, because first, they haven't alluded to it yet, clearly because SmackDown hasn't been going on yet. That being said, the whole thing around Roman is the fact that he just wants he just wants to be acknowledged as a tribal chief. Instead of a Hell in a Cell, why not just an I Quit match? Instead, in place of I Quit, just admit that you're the tribal chief.
And
Well,
You
I
can
mean,
find innovative ways to work around that whole Hell in a Cell aspect. But
I get it. I get where you guys are coming from. But I'm gonna pose a question for everybody here. I'm gonna take the attention off of Roman for a little bit.
yeah.
The whole Bayley and Sasha angle, because this is what started the conversation.
Mm.
Do you have it for the title?
yes,
I say no.
yes.
Okay,
Can it be an unsanctioned match?
that's what I was going for. I was going for an unsanctioned match, because that's how you write Sasha off TV, because she's clearly still hurt.
You can have it being unsanctioned is a good idea. I'm saying if they make it sanctioned, then yeah, I'd put the title on the line, because I feel like it's something that Bayley can rub in Sasha's face. And if wait, hold on.
Go ahead.
Now, like I've told y'all before, I don't want Bayley and Sasha for the title at Mania, right? But that doesn't mean that Sasha's narrative ends with Bayley when it comes to the championship. Beyond Bayley, she can still go after this title, and she can use the fact that Bayley, you know, rubbed it in her face she couldn't be champion of Hell in a Cell as fuel to eventually get the title from whoever has it at that point. But I don't mind the title being on the line if they have it as a sanctioned match, because it adds more fuel to the fire for Sasha to want to rip Bayley's head off. Like, imagine you piss somebody off that you won a trophy over them in basketball, right? Now y'all are having a one-on-one street game to see who the real better player is. No teams, nothing interferes, just your talent versus theirs. You don't need your whole team or a championship to be on the line to prove that point. But you can use the fact that y'all fought for a title before as fuel for why you want to win now. That's why I'm okay with the title being on the line if they were to do it sanctioned. If it were unsanctioned, then it works perfectly too.
Yeah.
I say make it unsanctioned and don't make it for the title, because, like you said, they don't need the title to carry over into this feud. I always believe that. To be honest with you, this feud never started over jealousy of who has what. It never really started over that. It started because what? Bayley feels like Sasha has not been a friend to her. And that, honestly, that narrative has been building up for years, because we've heard Corey Graves say it on commentary. We've heard it being argued throughout the show on commentary. So, I mean, it's been building up. it's never been about, oh, Bailey's pretty much the breadwinner out of the two. It's
So
never been that.
I mean, it's never been about her being the
Yeah.
breadwinner, but in the same
Well-
token, it's been about Bailey being overlooked, and the championship
Exactly.
played a huge role into that.
Mhm.
I was gonna touch on that. So like, you know, whenever I see when I saw the promo from Sasha Banks a couple weeks back, I think maybe last week or 2 weeks ago when she was sitting down in the chair, I was, you know, against what the content was provided, only because it seems as if it's like they're trying hard to establish who's the bad guy here, who's the good guy here. When I really think the story that should be telling is what Eric kind of, you know, touched on for a little bit, is the fact that it started with, and Tyler as well, it started with Bailey being overlooked. I feel like a more compelling, like to add another layer is for Bailey to like ultimately say, hey, before this all started, I was the good guy in all this.
Yes.
I was the good guy. You Hell in a Elimination Chamber, you turned on me. Tag team matches, you turned on me all these times. You
And
turned
she
on
was the
me.
person that convinced Bailey to turn heel in the first place on Becky
Right.
Lynch. Like, and that's why I brought up the fact that like the championship does fit that. Like, it doesn't have to be the end point of the narrative, but it could definitely be some of the juice, some of the details to get to that end point. Because it's not we're gonna sit here and act like this belt didn't play into it. Like, part of the reason why Bailey turned on Sasha in the first place was because she's been paranoid that Sasha was going to turn on her at some point to go after that belt, right? We're going to forget that part of the narrative.
Yeah.
You know, like
No, that's definitely not gonna be
I'm not gonna get on you. I'm just saying, like, essentially we are on this. We're same coin, two different sides, but they make the same coin. Like, you can take the friendship narrative. You can take the fact that they've had rivalries in NXT. You can take all this history and make it make sense because, by the grace of God or whoever's controlling the universe, it all fits. And that's why, like, for me, if they do this match at Hell in a Cell and the title's on the line and they rub it in Sasha's face that she can't win the champion, like, not only can she not win the championship well, she has not done well at Hell in a Cell matches in the past with the Hell in a Cell history either. I think Sasha has the most Hell in a Cell matches in women's history, and she's lost all of them so far. If she's going into this one against Bailey, ironically, always against a horsewoman, right? But
Right.
she's probably going to lose this one too. There's a lot of history that fits into it, but for me, the championship does play into this story. And it can be some of the meat of the story, but it doesn't have to be the icing on the top. It doesn't have to be the first thing you taste when it's all said and done.
Yeah, that's a fact.
So
That's a fact. You know, moving on. You know, because we touched on Raw, we touched on SmackDown, Clash of Champions. I do see a couple things lined up here. I do want to save it for another day, however. But I do want to talk to you guys about, you know, what you guys are looking up, generally speaking, as it pertains to the rest of the week. You have today, you have Impact, you have, you know, NXT, AEW going on, G1 Climaxes ongoing. What are you guys like fixing on, sinking your teeth into this week?
Kyle O'Reilly versus Finn Balor.
That's this weekend, isn't it? It is. TakeOver is this weekend.
TakeOver is this weekend. Yeah.
So we got TakeOver. We got AEW. Quick question. Is this the AEW before the anniversary show?
Yes, because the anniversary show is on October 9th.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so yeah. So that's a Friday because I'm off that day. Great, I can watch it. But yeah, so yeah, I'm looking forward to AEW, how they set up for the anniversary show. This anniversary show really will make or break them for their cap off of their first year. So we will see how they cap off for the first year. As far as everything else goes, NXT, yes, the go home show. I am very excited to see that. Right before we got on, I told you guys Isaiah Swerve Scott versus Escobar. That will be going down on October 4th for the Cruiserweight title. So we have quite a few things going on. As far as the G1, I have not been keeping up with the G1. Shame on me. I believe, I don't know who has 4
I
points.
think Block B had matches today.
Block B had matches today? Okay,
Yeah.
so I got to look that
Block
up. But
A was the 26th. Block B was today. Yeah.
there's only like maybe like two. I lied, not two. There's probably like 3 or 4 people
Yeah, because I know
from Block A who
Robinson-
has like 4 points right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's quite a few people. We can't hear you, Ty.
I missed the general question. My bad.
Yeah,
It
no,
was
no,
like,
just
what
you're
are we looking forward
to
to this weekend?
this weekend?
Well,
You
this
know,
week.
Oh,
Yeah.
we said it last episode. O'Reilly and Balor.
Yeah, that's like, I think that's the biggest thing coming out of the
Although
wrestling world this week.
I do want to see what the card. I don't know the entire card for NXT Takeover 30. I also like the fact that
I
they're
will
just
pull it
going
up
by
for
the
you
number.
right now.
I like the fact they're going by the numbers now. Which saves them so much. You know, it's ironic. Like Takeover is going by the numbers now. They're not using taglines anymore.
and
But
WWE is
yeah, oh boy. Please keep calling it by the number. I can't. I hope we. How many takeovers is it going to take to get to take over 100? Oh my God! Now I think about it.
So this is the
Right.
official. This is the card so far. What we have.
You have to
We
wait
got
30
Damian
years.
Priest versus Johnny Gargano for the North
Yes.
American title. We got Io Shirai versus Candice LeRae for the NXT Women's title. Of course, you know, Kyle O'Reilly and Finn Balor for the NXT Championship. Kushida versus Velveteen Dream in a singles match. And then Santanos Escobar versus Isaiah Swerve Scott for the Cruiserweight title.
It's a lot of belts on the line. It feels like their own
Yes.
version of Night of Champions. But then again, they don't have that
Yes.
many titles to begin with compared to the main roster. But I mean, Damian Priest and Gargano, that's a proving match for Priest. I mean, Priest has been having some dope
Bangers.
performances.
Yeah.
But like now, I mean, this is another roadblock for him. Io Shirai and Candice LeRae have yet to have a bad match that I've seen in NXT alone. Like, I'm now that Candice LeRae's full on heel, I'm kind of interested how this works because she was a babyface in the previous matches, from what I remember. So how that changes like psychology is interesting. What do you call it? Escobar and Isaiah Swerve Scott, from an in-ring standpoint, we know it's going to be good. But like you mentioned, with the rumors that Isaiah might be graduating, even in division-wise, going over to SmackDown, not just roster-wise, that's kind of interesting. I don't know. I mean, that could be a spoiler, but you never know anymore with the Cruiserweight Championship or what they might do. So, you know, it is what it is. And as for Balor and O'Reilly, I'm not even going to put it. If we do a prediction show or if we ask for predictions, I'm not giving one for that match.
I mean,
Well,
let's just use this as a
I was about to
prediction
say,
for the most part, 'cause
My prediction is somebody's arm's going to hurt, and I know that's correct. So,
so much kicks.
I mean, like both of them use their legs for drop kicks and leg locks and all those stuff. So you Gucci, people's champ. You what say you, man?
Oh, go ahead. Before I say what rumor I've seen this week. Go ahead.
For in terms of this week, I mean, look, I'm not sure AEW has anything like too big, scheduled for this week, considering the 30 years of Jericho next week. TakeOver is going to be interesting this week, obviously. Obviously, can't wait for SmackDown for that fallout. I mean, right now, it's a good time. I think the pay-per-view that we just passed from watching, I think everybody's got some excitement in terms of watching and to see how everybody levels their game up. I think tonight for Impact, it's more so if they can finally hire Heath, because Heath needs a job. Heath for Impact.
Heath for high, baby.
He got kids.
Chris Bay is still in line for the X Division title, along with TJP as well. I need to see more from the tag team division because I know the Wolves and the North and, the Good Brothers over there are basically, in that little triangle to figure out who's the best tag team right now in AEW because they got some really good tag teams. In Impact. They got some really good tag teams in Impact. That's going to be something very interesting. I know the FTR and AEW as well. They're basically throwing out the gauntlet because they've been kind of stalking SCU as of late, and that's been something that's been alluded to. I know the Elite have turned a little bit in terms of their character. I'm still waiting for the cleaner because I don't care about the Bucks. Cody, the Dark Prince has come back, and he's gunning for the Dark Order and Mr. Brody Lee. So that's something that's going to be continuing this week. As for Moxley and whatever's going on, like he always finds himself in these like compromising positions in situations with COVID or something not going right in terms of his title feud. So I feel bad, even though like he's been champion for far too long and someone should be able to take it. You know, it's just a weird thing with AEW right now, and you know, NXT, we already know what time it is, so that's basically.
I do got one thing from SmackDown.
Yeah.
Everybody else is looking forward to what Roman does, and I am too, to an extent. But I do want to see what happens to Sami Zayn now, because he came off a very not only a very definitive, like even if he didn't win, he would have been one of the highlights of the match, just how many bumps he was taking. But I'm interested to see what Sami Zayn does now, because he has legitimate reason to gloat. He has heel heat from some of the devious actions that he did. It's one of those, like, it's a perfect storm. Like, he got a definitive victory, but he also got to make you hate him, the fact that he won. And then on top of that, I kind of want to see what happens if there's an Artist Collective reunion, because the last time Sammy was around the Artist Collective, they had gold and he had a false championship. Now he's the undisputed Intercontinental Champion. And I'm curious to know if that's going to change Cesaro and Shinsuke's mind. Are they going to get back together? Is Sammy going to get in their good graces to turn on them? Or Cesaro and Sheamus going to use Sami and Zayn? Sami and Zayn.
Long as it's not Monday Night Raw where they break up and return.
Yeah. No, because like I just thought of that. I was like,
I like the name Artist Collective, by the way.
Yes.
Like the three guys, it fits that trio narrative.
And they have so much history between each other in terms of singles match. I mean, not Shinsuke and Cesaro per se, but just their connections to Sammy. It made a lot of sense when they made this. So like imagine, like, you know, like Sammy's
matches.
it's crazy. Like, and it makes me wonder, because Sammy's going to be walking around backstage with that belt. He has to bump into them at some point.
He's going to flaunt it.
You bringing that up? Because here's the thing. I thought he was going to come out with one, but you bringing that up. He has two belts. They have two belts. He's going to want to, you know, show off this and that. Like, there's a lot of potential for what they could do on this episode and the episodes going forward with him with this. So I kind of want to see if they interact again. Personally,
I'm definitely. I'm not gonna lie. You made me sad, because like I was thinking what next with Sami Zayn, and I was like, imagine if he had a call back to Daniel Bryan, and I realized Drew Gulak was with him, and I'm like,
who also has gold apparently.
Not now, it's gone.
Oh really? Oh,
Yeah,
I missed that on Raw.
Yeah,
God damn.
It's a nail. It's a nail. Big E, man. What say you, man?
Quick rumor. Well, not a rumor. It's a fact. Rob Van Dam is no longer with Impact Wrestling. He is now a free agent. So we shall be able to see where exactly he's going to go. Where he's going to go to AEW. Is he going to go back to WWE?
He ain't going back to WWE.
Him and Jericho don't mix.
He ain't going back to WWE.
Like, pick a hand.
Yeah, him.
And it's not even a wellness policy joke. It's just like there's nothing for him to do.
It's not. He's gonna. It's gonna be reminiscent to his last run. He's probably just gonna be the fall guy with everything.
If he comes back, I want him to fight Jeff. They jump off things and then he leaves.
Nah, him and Matt Riddle.
I feel like it's just gonna be him. Like all
him
the
and Matt Riddle will
guys
have to be a tag team.
I feel like, but low key, I feel like it's just gonna be a whole bunch of TNA people just pull up.
He's gonna be the next legend for Orton to kill.
No.
Basically.
Stop. How many times was Randy Orton killed?
No.
What do you mean?
Stop.
No?
I'm promoting death here, man.
What are you promoting death? Let's straight shoot right now. Let's be honest. He comes back. One of the first things they're gonna propose to him is, "Hey, you want to come over to Raw because they need star power on Raw?" He's gonna go over. Orton's gonna RKO him again, and him and Ricochet are gonna have a contest to see how many times they can land on their neck. Okay, and then if he would go over to SmackDown, he would be inserted into the Intercontinental title division, which wouldn't be bad, to be quite honest. But it would be, and you get some weird matches, like you get the Artist Collective versus AJ Styles, Jeff Hardy, and RVD. Which, okay, actually, I kind of want this to happen. But my point being is, like, he's going to be used in selective spots. It's going to be a limited deal, and then he might get a Hall of Fame induction. I would much rather he just go where he wants to go, or re-sign with Impact, because he seemed to have had a lot of fun over there.
Yeah.
If he does,
well, apparently
Katie Forbes goes with him. So
yeah, she's supposed to. They're a collective.
Can't take a lot of that on TV.
and if they took that to AEW, to be honest, Seeing
It would work for
RVD
them.
and Darby Allin, seeing RVD work with some of the younger guys would be very. It's nothing different than what he's doing in Impact. So it works better if he stays out of the company. To be honest.
Yeah, possibilities are definitely endless with RVD. We'll get into all that more, but you know, for now, Golden Child, People's Champ, Kid Ty, Eric B, DiamondCutter.